everyone. Please let me know if I'm live. Let me know on the chat. Let me know if you can see the lovely area that I'm showing. Hopefully you can see. Hi everyone. Hello, hello. Good to see you all. Please let me know if you can see me. Oh, fantastic. Hi Sandy. Hi everyone. So here we are. As promised, I carry on with my tours on Tel Aviv, my live streams on Tel Aviv, regardless of the temperatures, regardless of anything. So we are here for live walking tours of this beautiful city, Tel Aviv, of this beautiful country. And today we are actually having 2 live streams and 2 Zoom talks afterwards. As you know, I'm a very productive tour guide. And even if there are no tourists, there are tours. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, or Shavua Tov, depending on where you are. Hi, Ronnie Lynn, good to see you all. So, I love standing here, actually. Can I just stay here for the rest of the tour, please? And get some nice selfies as well, maybe? I don't know. I'm joking, of course, you know that. But I really like the backdrop, because the backdrop is historic. I have the wind. What else do you want? You have history, you have the wind, you don't need anything else, right? So now we're already starting in the American German colony. Then after a short break, like 45-minute break, we are exploring another interesting neighborhood, another community neighborhood called Neve Tzedek. American German colony is about Christians in the Holy Land, which is a very important thing, obviously, 19th century thing. And then another 19th century neighborhood, which is Neve Tzedek, in 45 minutes after we're done with this tour. After a couple hours break, there are going to be 2 more tours. And we're going to be wrapping up the story of Constantine Palace, and the neighborhood around it in St. Petersburg, another Romanov Palace, Romanov neighborhood. And then I'm giving the second episode on the so-called Russian Exodus, which is the story of the immigrants from the former Russian Empire, subject of the former Russian Empire. I mostly focus on, Russians, Ukrainians, Jews, and Georgians. And, this time we are exploring China, because, yes, there actually were communities of all these small nations, ethnic groups in China too. So, without further ado, let me take you to America, Germany, Holy Land, even a bit of Russia. I mean, what's going on here? So for this particular reason, I need to switch the camera, and I may actually need to wipe it a little bit. Give me a moment, please, because using so much sunscreen. I'm using so much sunscreen, and obviously it leaves stains and smears and whatnot. Hey, Natalie, yeah, exactly, let's go. So after a short introduction, it's time to go. And you can clearly see that this doesn't look like Israel. This looks more like Europe, right? And you're quite right. This is a little corner of sort of America and sort of Europe. But first, before I take you here, I need to take you to somewhat 1860s, to the States, to this town of Jonesport. Let me show you some photographs from those. Well, not exactly those times. So Jonesport, Maine, there you go. Just take a look at these houses, right? Tiled roof, terracotta roofs, a lot of wooden stuff, plastered buildings, right? The church over there in the very center. Well, this is like early 1900s, but I guess you get the idea. Or I can show you this. Give me a moment. Again, I need a second. Well, or let's see another postcard from Jonesport in Maine. There you go. It says actually Jonesport. I think you can see that. So I think there is something that kind of really reminds us of Jonesport here. The thing is that in 1866, 147 people, well, 150 people decided to set off on a journey of the lifetime and to go to the Holy Land. In Maine, by the way, there is a monument. So these people got on a ship called Nellie Chapman in August 11, 1866. I'm not sure how crispy this is, but I hope you can see it. And they, under the leadership of their pastor, a Mormon, let me show you, George Adams, who was a very charismatic leader who knew Old and New Testament by heart. He managed to somehow arrange the purchase of land in the Ottoman Palestine. Right, I remind you that Palestine is not the name of the state. I'm referring it to the region called like this. And so George Adams, he managed to arrange the purchase of lands, and they were hoping that by the time they would arrive, and let me show you another photo. Hold on a second. So, and they hoped that by the time of their arrival, they would have already the plot of land and everything would be waiting for them. Well, what they saw was this, the beautiful Jaffa port. This is the photograph taken somewhat around 1900s. Well, but you kind of get the idea. Yeah, the old city, congested, and obviously not very already, definitely not ready for newcomers. So they were hoping that there will be some plot of land and they'll get off the ships and start building. That's not exactly what happened. In Tel Aviv, there is, let me show you this thing over here. Hi. So there you go. In honor of 157 American Christian lovers of Zion who arrived by sail on Nellie Chapman on September 22. So their trip lasted for more than 1 month on the board of a ship, Nellie Chapman, open to all elements. They arrived to Jaffa, right? But, well, they saw the beautiful old city of Jaffa, which wasn't really that beautiful at that time, but nobody was happy to see them. And the Ottomans were not really ready to let them go. So what they did, they disembarked from the ship and they were only allowed to settle on the shore. It's just the sea and the sand. That was it. So I built a camp. And to their horror, hi Robert, good to see you. And to their horror, they found out that a year before that, the Ottomans buried there the victims of cholera, which is a very catchy disease, right? No wonder people started dying, kids, women, and those were families, not only men, women, children. And even the only doctor they had on board passed away. It was a bit challenging. Well, anyway, short story, well, long story short, they were able to get a plot of land finally, but the Ottomans were not exactly very welcoming. We know that the settlement, the Jewish and Christian settlement and pilgrimage was only allowed by the Ottomans after the Crimean War. That is the second half of the 19th century, after 1860s. And this is when the pilgrimage in the full sense of the word actually started. However, well, the Ottomans still were quite suspicious to the newcomers, and it would take much longer for them to kind of come to terms with whatever was going on. Well, eventually, all those Americans, well, they didn't come empty-handed. They had no idea they would be coming, and they wanted to build a new life. What kind of life? Well, they were devout Christians, lovers of Zions, and they wanted to come to the Holy Land and prepare this land for the return of Messiah, Jesus, women. And one of the prerequisites for the second advent of Jesus would be the return of Jews to the Holy Land. So we could say that they kind of foresaw the establishment of the new state of Israel, but it was still a long way to go. But they needed to do something. They needed to build a life from scratch because there was nothing waiting for them there. And they bought ships. On the ships, I mean, they bought houses. They brought wood to build, well, enough wood to build about 30 houses, and 20 were built. And what we're looking at is exactly one of their houses, obviously restored, but nevertheless, it was built from the same wood that, well, from Maine, from Jonesport. So this is definitely of America, I would say, here in Tel Aviv. Obviously, there was no Tel Aviv at that point. No, and it was one of the first settlements outside of the walls of Jaffa anyway. Jaffa is not really far from here. The sea, if you go that way, it's about 10 minutes walk. If I go on the roof or a balcony or from the other side of this hotel, which I'm gonna tell you in a minute, I could easily see the sea. So life wasn't easy for those Americans at all. And after a lot of clashes and a lot of setups from the Ottomans, most Americans that survived, I just would like to remind you that there were no doctors. I mean, that the only doctor passed away, died from cholera, so it wasn't so easy. So most Americans decided to leave. The only two that kind of were still there would be the Driscoll brothers. Let me show you another photograph. There are a lot of photographs that I have prepared for today, and I know I will never able to share all of them, but I know there will be more tours because there's something in the making. There's something in the making always. So I would like to introduce you to the Driscoll brothers. There you go. So most of these Americans, what did they try to do? Well, they tried to do agriculture, but the soil is different. It's sand mostly. They tried to grow the same crops and food that they knew how to grow back in the States, which didn't really work out for them. But for Driscoll brothers, who were quite, I would say, quick on the draw and very shrewd, they knew that, well, it was just that the new gateway to the Holy Land, no Argentina. No Argentina. Now they knew that the new road, the new gate was open to them. They decided to build a hotel. So this is, I don't want to show people, so I will be just probably focusing on the upper levels over here. So look at this gorgeous building. So it was first called the Driscoll Hotel after Driscoll brothers. And well, why would people come to Jaffa anyway? Well, not for the sake of Jaffa. They would come for the sake of Jerusalem, obviously, for the sake of pilgrimage, right? And that's what these brothers definitely knew, the Driscoll brothers. I want to show you something. Oh, by the way, what I forgot to show you, this is the ship, the Nellie Chapin ship, that these 157 Americans came on, the Nellie Chapin. And give me a second. I would like to show you a couple of, postcards that I have. Just give me a minute. Looking for it. By the way, the entire area was even like some 20 years ago, it was in a pretty bad condition. I will just show you one photograph, and I think it will really speak for itself. Just give me a second to find it. Yeah, but first of all, let's have a look here. Just a second, I just need one more hand, desperately. Oh yeah, there you go. I just need to zoom it all in a little bit, and I need to use the trash bin here to do that. So I want to show you the postcard from this hotel. So the Driscoll brothers turned it into a hotel for pilgrims because they knew nobody would come to Jaffa for the sake of Jaffa. They would come for the sake of Jerusalem. And even though Driscoll brothers stayed for a little longer, they also realized that wouldn't be really much potential for them there. So eventually no relation to any other Chapin. I don't know. Okay, and they later on sold these lands and the property to Germans, and from a Driscoll hotel it was renamed after, into a Hardegg Hotel, Hardegg Jerusalem Hotel. We'll get to Hardegg shortly, but that's the postcard, and you can still see the American flag because the Germans would not be eliminating any American history from here. And look. So even the Driscoll brothers, when they opened the hotel, they kind of had a concept. And we could say that it was the very first concept hotel in the Holy Land, maybe even everywhere in the world, I'm not sure. You see biblical comfort, evangelical cleanliness, right? And that, I don't know. So what they did, they named the 12 rooms after the 12 tribes of Israel. Then they named 12 rooms after the 12 apostles. And also they named the rooms, like all sorts of themed rooms, after important events and saints in the New Testament. That's interesting, right? And as I said, unfortunately, in the 20th century, the area was in neglect. And if I find a photo, and I have found a photo, that's what it looked like. So only in early 2000s, one of the development companies purchased the plot of land and the property, and they invested bazillions of shekels into the restoration. And this complex, the hotel with 30-something rooms, and also this kind of a apart hotel. They are part of one of the same hotel, the Driscoll Hotel. So it reopened in 2018. It's a very expensive hotel, a nice one. Yeah, and I want to show you a couple of things. I swear I haven't been paid, but I want to show you a few things. So I dropped by today. Hi Joy, good to see you. I dropped by today and they did a very good restoration job. They restored the decorations in the canteen, in the dining room. They also restored the frescoes. This is the video. There is the minus first floor, and they restored the frescoes and the ceiling decorations. So all these frescoes were from the times of the Jerusalem Hotel. Yeah, so let's talk about how American colony, after a couple of years since they came, became a German colony. Well, the thing is, as I said, there were a lot of issues. Well, the Ottomans were really giving them a hard time. And also they were not really ready for the very, very different conditions. I would say totally different lifestyle. And those who survived decided to go back to the States. But they needed money, they needed time, and also approximately the same time, 1870s, 1866, this is exactly when in September 22, the Americans came off the shore. And 3 years later, basically, by 1870, this land had already been purchased by Germans, so a German colony. There were several Germans that had already come and had already decided establishing the colonies, such as in Haifa, which you probably remember my tours of. And there were also some Swedish communities as well. All those were Christian communities, obviously. The Second Adventists, the Protestants, and also smaller groups of Lutheran groups that underwent some sort of schism and would be persecuted for their quite extremist views back in their homeland. So, for example, the Metzer family were one of the people who purchased the land, and they would later on resell it to the German Lutheran groups, Protestant groups, George David Hardegg and Christoph Hoffmann. Don't be misguided here. Why Mr. Christoph Hoffmann, Herr Hoffmann, is wearing the tarbush, the Ottoman headpiece for men. That's because in the Ottoman Palestine, every man had to wear a tarbush. I mean, speaking of the city population, and regardless of their religion, because you couldn't show your relation to any other religion than Islam. be it a Jew or a Christian, and Jews and Christians had always lived in these lands under the Ottomans and before and after. So it's totally okay that he's wearing tarbush. It just definitely tells you that he mingled in the Ottoman Palestine, basically. That was it. By the way, that would apply all over the Ottoman Empire, which was gigantic. Yeah. So, and well, the hotel will be purchased by Mr. Hardegg. Well, the other guy, this one. And he called it Hardegg Jerusalem Hotel. And for a long time, this would be a Jerusalem hotel. So Americans left. Did they leave everything? Did they take the houses with them? Obviously, they did not. I will tell you about this building in a minute. I'm trying to kind of stick to chronology here because I know the history of the Holy Land is very confusing. So I'm at least trying to make it a bit easier for you to take it all in, because I know what it's like. No, they did not really take the homes with them. No, Germans bought everything. And this house, I think, is really the best illustration of what would be going on there ever since Germans. Yeah, please. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. And, well, what are we looking at? We're looking at the Friendship House. It's a sort of a museum of the American-German colonies. So when the Germans moved in, they needed to build more homes for their communities. And it wasn't just one community, there would be several communities built. We know of one in Sarona, we know multiple colonies across the Holy Land. We know also one German colony in Jerusalem, and I will be taking you there for sure. You know how much I love German colonies. It's one of my favorite things to talk about on my tours. And I was just so lucky to have it on my exams as well. Well, I mean, for qualify as a tour guide. Oh, goodness. And look, what the Germans actually did. They obviously would build things their way. Americans, they brought wood, right? So Jonesport, by the way, still remembered for, well, the shipbuilding. They are very good at this. And their woodworks. But Germans, unlike Americans, they prefer to build from stone. So look at this house. Half of this house is built in wood, and half of this house is built in stone. It wasn't built like that. It didn't look like that from the very beginning, but this is what it was decided to do during the restoration, which took place in early 2000s and late 1990s, because this house shows you exactly the lineage, so from American heritage to German heritage, and the two kinds of heritage basically coexist. And you can see here the American flag, because the Friendship House belongs to the American family, and the Friendship House and the restoration of the whole area is very much thanks to the American couple, the Holmes family. This is the photo of Jean Holmes, Dr. Jean Holmes, and her husband, who passed away, I believe, a few years ago. And so they originally come from Maine. They also have, as far as I understand, a lot of heritage in the Netherlands. This is her. There you go. This is just the Jean Charles, or Holmes. That's I think Charles is the maiden name at that point. So she's the owner and the main Friendship House, and she is the one who brought the restoration money and attention of the city authorities of Tel Aviv, Idiat Tel Aviv, municipality of Tel Aviv, and the antiquities authorities. She brought this problem to their attention. And also, as far as I understand, when they moved into this house, while doing the restoration, they found out that this house actually was built by one of their, family members from back then, from 1860s. So what we're looking at is the two houses. There's not much you can see actually from here because of all the groves, but what I'm going to do, I'll just move around a little bit. So have a look. The two houses here, again, also restored, you understand that. They were built, one was built by the Americans from wood, and the other one was built by Germans from stone. And they stand one next to another. It's not so easy to tell now the difference, but you kind of get the idea. So that's the wooden one, and that's the stone one. We will also walk around a little bit to see what's going on, but in a while. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will be coming back here again. As I said, I will try to keep the chronology, at least somehow staying in line with the timeline, but I'm not sure how well I will be able to do that. In the meantime, I'm standing at a crossroads, and I know it's not so easy to figure it out, but the streets here, actually two streets, and they are aligned in shape of a cross. It's a very nice neighborhood and a very, very expensive neighborhood, premium neighborhood now. But some 30 years ago, it was horrible slums and absolute desolation, absolute. We will be talking about the church as well. So why a shape of a cross? Because it's a Christian neighborhood. However, the two streets that we see here are the Auerbach Street and the, let me show you, by the way, Beer Hoffman Street. The streets are named after Jewish writers that have a German and Austrian background. There you go. So this is the Richard Beer Hoffman Street, and the street that runs across from here is the Auerbach Street. So you remember that Americans left. The Driscoll brothers stayed a little longer, but actually not all of them left. Were all the American settlers. They mostly, yes, they were Mormons, but as I said, they kind of underwent a little bit of a schism. So that's why they set out on a journey. Yeah, but they were Mormons. Yes, with Americans, Mormons. And also the thing is that their leader, Adams, he was a not very good leader. Let me show you his portrait again. So George J. Adams. There you go. I know it's a bit sunny, so I'm not going to be doing this too much. But so he also had a lot of I would say, had a kind of a drinking problem. So this is, well, when a community loses a leader and a doctor and also other fellow members of the community, things start to go south and they needed to do something. Hi, Cindy, good to see you. Oh, I see a comment, but I see there was a comment and then you deleted it or something. I don't know. Good to see you, dear. Thank you so much for joining. Well, not every American left. Oh, Ronnie, interesting. I don't know much about the geography of Mormons. So not all the Americans left. One actually stayed and made a fantastic career. Not just a fantastic career, but changed, I would say, the history of this land in a way and started a very big industry. Tourism. Let's see what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. Look at this house. Again, a very typical American house. Restored, obviously. And if I show you this, it's called Bate Rollo Floyd 1866. 1866 is the year of the arrival of the American community, right? Bate means house of Rollo Floyd. Rollo Floyd was that American that stayed. Well, there are several reasons why he stayed, but the thing is, so when they prepared for the ship for the trip to the Holy Land, Rollo Floyd, apart from taking the wood for the shipbuilding, he also took his carriage. And ladies, gentlemen, I'm so sorry, but come on. So, okay, so Rollo Floyd took a carriage with him, and when he came here, he knew that the pilgrims and just people anyway would want to get around somehow. And he became the very first taxi driver and then the very, very first tour guide of the Holy Land for Christian groups, for the Europeans, for the Americans. And he started just with one carriage, and then later on he started hiring more and more people that would be working for him. And he established the very first so-called travel agency, tour agency. So the very first a tour guide to the Holy Land in the modern times, Rolf Lloyd. I would like to show you a little bit more photos that I have. Well, for example, this is the photo taken just next to his home. That's his family. He didn't live here for long. He would eventually move around and live in Jerusalem, as far as I understand, and also in another colony not far from here. So that's him. I think you can identify his beard, and a big family, and also other fellow members of the community. So Rolf Lloyd did a very good job, and he felt very comfortable here, very comfortable. Let me also show you another photo of him. You see, he was doing quite okay. The American house was, sorry, the American flag was hanging in the wrong way. Well, I'll tell them. If I see them, I will tell them. I guess maybe just we had a strong wind here, so it could just maybe fell down or something. I'm not sure, but yes, this house does. But yes, this house does belong to the American family. Yeah, that's true. So that's Rolf Lloyd. You can see by the look in his face. That's the, I would say very self-contained, and very, I would say, accomplished man. Well, he built a small empire here. That's true. And there are some photos of his trips. Well, you know, should always be on the left. Okay, Cindy, I trust you on that. I don't know, so I trust you. And well, he did all sorts of tours. In terms of the Ottomans, in terms of the Ottomans, hi Jan, good to see. In terms of the Ottomans, there were no really roads built here up until the second half of the 19th century. There were no roads, and all the travels were quite tricky and dangerous. And before the railroad construction, which would start a little bit later, it would be only donkeys, camels, and horses. So things were not so easy for the pilgrims. And again, Rolf Lloyd knew that his services would be needed. And speaking of the pilgrims, by the way, well, the photo says that there, a man whose kind of face is in a circle is Mark Twain, the American writer who did travel to the Holy Land. And he joined, by the way, those sort of defeated Americans to go home. He wrote a book after that. He actually hated it in the Holy Land. It was horrible, it was hot, expensive, it was not prepared for the, I would say it was not developed at that point. So Mark Twain did not like it. I will just quote him a little bit as I take you to a nice area over here. And look at the bougainville. Oh, beautiful, beautiful flowers. I hope it is bougainville, because that's the time for it now. So Mark Twain, well, just a few kind of comments from him, quoting his memoirs of his travels: a hopeless, dreary, heartbroken land. Indeed, thank you so much, Jan. Yeah, good. So you see, at least some flora of Israel I do know. Or let me quote here. From the long-awaited moment they arrived in the country, Twain hastened to dismiss the religious devotion shown by the rest of the party. His fellow travelers took every opportunity to cry and pray hysterically, which he did not do. And also then, its banks and those of the brook and respectably adorned with blooming oleanders, but the unutterable beauty of the spot will not throw a well-balanced man into convulsions, as the Syrian book on traveling would lead one to suppose. So he was very critical of the pilgrims that would finally, after weeks on ships at sea, would arrive to the Holy Land and would start crying hysterically out of joy. So Twain did not like it very much. Plus, he mentioned, I read some of the episodes from his memoirs of his trip, that it was too expensive, and everywhere it was a ripoff, because it was only one cafe, it was only one hotel, it was only one place, no competition, and you are in the middle of nowhere. So he didn't like the trip very much. Plus, no roads, very few hospitals, hot and sandy and dusty. So obviously he did not like it much. He would have liked it better. I mean, nowadays, look at this. We are in this newly restored and developed neighborhood called the Village. Well, it's just named after the Moshava. Moshava means the village, so kind of a village and community. And it's called the Village. It's just a small residential complex. Some of these oranges, these are oranges. I will take you closer to this, and there is a reason why these are oranges. So these are, it's very hard to tell now. Some of them are the original houses built by the Germans. Some are new ones. It's very hard to tell now which is which. And it's a very upscale neighborhood. And it's tiny, it's quiet, however, yes, of course, yes, Twain had very different perspective on many things religion-wise. You're very right, dear. So he didn't like it at all. And in the heart, I also like the way that the Emmanuel Church looks from here, the Lutheran Church. And, well, you see a bit of the house here. And they have the orange trees growing here. And there is a reason why these are orange trees, because of Jaffa oranges. I'm sure you all know Jaffa oranges and Jaffa orange cake that was meant to be made from the Jaffa oranges. And well, they also grow here lemons, but oranges is the Jaffa oranges, of course. Let me show you some. Yeah, over here. I mean, they're everywhere. In November, it will be nice and ripe, and you can come and pick it up. I don't think I will be here in November, so I'm unfortunately going to miss the season for oranges. And by the way, the oranges that are grown here are a special kind of them. Like, it's called a shamuti. And the reason you know Jaffa oranges in the States and actually across Europe, that's because this type of oranges you could actually transport, and they could survive the many weeks at sea and not get, ruined or just rotten because of a very thick skin that they have. So they have the kind of a very special kind of oranges, I would say, here. Again, as I said, oranges and lemons that they grow here. And these oranges are symbols of Jaffa, obviously, and there were a lot of orange groves. Well, these are lemons over there, as you can see. Let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, there you go. I think you can see it. And let me show you a couple of photos. So there used to be, well, these orange trees and lemon trees are new ones, but there were always orange groves everywhere in Jaffa, and growing oranges was one of the main industries starting from the 19th century. Well, have a look. This is the photo taken from let me find a shade. Let me find a shade, because otherwise it's just totally impossible. Look, these are all orange groves. The photo is taken, by the way, from the American German colony overlooking Jaffa. Look at that. So you see what I'm talking about? There you go. And let me also show you something else. I think I have another postcard, a very nice one, that also shows you Jaffa and the orange groves. Have a look. And you can see the views, a little bit views of the American colony, the old Jaffa here, and the orange grove just between the two neighborhoods. Yeah, so this must be a postcard sent some European traveler. And when I said the travel industry Well, as I said, Rolf Lloyd was definitely the one who established tourism in Israel, and he is kind of the very first tour guide to the Holy Land. And a very important traveler, Thomas Cook. I'm sure you know of the Thomas Cook Travel Agency. So he, together with Rolf Lloyd and together with several more people, he started tours to the Holy Land in the 19th century. And this was the start of the mass tourism, group tourism, which started off as the pilgrimage. By the way, Thomas Cook himself, he joined the Temperance Club, or what do you call this, right? So the religious group that did not use alcohol, and he promoted the sobriety. So, and his first tours in general would be the tours that didn't include alcohol, and it was the means to actually make people forget about alcohol. So he did actually a good job in this regard. So Thomas Cook was actually frequent to the Holy Land himself. But we are now leaving this wonderful area. Again, as I said, I can't tell you which of the houses is new, which is old, but all of them meant to look just like the homes built by the American and German communities. And obviously they are all now plastered. And all of them, I believe, have terracotta roofs, at least from what I can see. But I love this cute fence, the wooden fence. I like it. Let's see a little bit more of the bougainvilleas. It is cute. It is very cute. I'm glad you're enjoying it as much as I do. There is so much history here, and there is never really, 1 hour is never really enough. So definitely I will be doing more tours, but the pre-recorded ones. And there is something in the making, and I'm not going to be telling now because I don't want to jinx it, but I hope that it will work out and I will be able to show you a lot more amazing things in this area and tell you more amazing stories and unique connections, unbelievable connections. Just lovely flowers. Oh, and the doggy here. Hi, doggy. Well, so who were the Germans? Well, with the Germans, it was a little bit more complicated because there were a lot of them coming, and eventually the group also underwent a certain crisis, and eventually the group started, well, they would split, and one of the group, the evangelical groups, would move here. But they were Templars, still they were Templars. And so the Templars believe that the temple, you don't need a temple, you don't need a church. The temple is in your heart, right? And they just wanted, again, just like the Americans, they wanted to prepare this land for the arrival of Jews and for the arrival of Messiah in this regard, right? Jesus. So they didn't really build the church here. For a long time, there would be no church. But later on, the church would be constructed, and it was constructed for a very important reason, for the arrival of Kaiser Wilhelm II and Augusta Victoria, his wife, to the Holy Land, which happened at the very end of the 19th century. If I have a photo, I will show you. So that's Kaiser Wilhelm and Augusta Victoria. And obviously they did come here because they visited all the German colonies. They visited all the colonies, and they established very good relations with the Germans, with the Ottomans, which later on would result in the alliance between the Ottomans and Germans in the First World War. That was a direct connection, absolutely. Let me also show you something else. Give me a minute. Where is that? So, there are 70 photos that I have prepared for today. I knew I would never be able to show you all of them, but that's not that relevant. So eventually the church was built, and I was able to get inside today in between the services, because the services here held by different communities, by the way. So that's what it looks like. The church was built in early 1900s. Well, inaugurated. So they started building the church before the visit, but they never really finished on time. So Kaiser did not visit the church, did not see the inauguration of the church. And yes, you see here menorah. That's totally fine to see a cross and the menorah. So that's me, and I think a nice selfie. And this is one of very few Gothic buildings that you can find in the Holy Land, or Neo-Gothic, better say, because it's already early 20th century. So the church is called St. Emmanuel Church. And over there is Beit Emmanuel. That's one house that I haven't really talked about yet, because, well, it was waiting for its time. Now the time has come to talk about Beit Emmanuel. Beit Emmanuel, I also walk around and you'll be able to see a lot more, but in general, let's also have a look at the garden a little bit, or maybe like that. You see there's a courtyard, there's a lovely garden over there. Part of the area is now built behind the bushes. So, what is Beit Emmanuel? Well, Beit Emmanuel was also a hotel, like a pilgrimage center. But original name was not Beit Emmanuel, it was Hotel du Parc. Let me show you a few things over here. By the way, well, since I found it, this is the photo of the arrival to Jerusalem of Kaiser Wilhelm and Augusta Victoria. It was a big, big, big visit. Lots of fuss. No Jaffa apples, only oranges. But that's Jerusalem. That's not Jaffa, obviously. So yeah, so the Du Parc Hotel, it was called. Let me show you this photo over here. Hotel du Parc. So this hotel was also established, and by the way, you can see here the Driscoll Hotel, that was called Hardegg Jerusalem Hotel after Driscoll brothers left. Yeah, so you can see that. And this building was constructed, and the plot of land was purchased from the American colony, from the Metzer family that owned this plot of land. As I said, Metzer was one of the people who bought that's him in younger years, who purchased most of the lands from the Americans. So this land was purchased from him by Plato von Ustinov from Russia, from the Russian Empire. Plato von Ustinov was the son of a nobleman who was a friend with the Tsar. Romanov, right? Alexander III. And Plato von Ustinov once traveled to the Holy Land, just like anyone else. You know, like anyone could travel, starting from the mid-19th century. It was a big deal, you know, everybody wanted to see the Holy Land, so he traveled. And that's for the first time when he met Meltzer and his family. They became friends. And then upon return, Plato von Ustinov realized he wasn't really a Pravoslav Christian. He wasn't really an Orthodox Christian. He realized he was a Lutheran. He wanted to be a Lutheran. So he converted. For this, he was punished by the Russian authorities, and he was exiled to Siberia. And his father once played cards with the emperor, and the emperor lost. So the emperor asked, okay, what do you want? So you lost. Well, I lost. What do you want? And he said, please let my son go. He said, okay, I will let your son go, but he'll have to leave Russia because Alexander III was a very devout Christian, Orthodox Christian, so he could not tolerate that. And Plato von Ustinov left. He went to Germany, where the niece of Emperor Alexander II, let me show you her portrait. Give me a second, please. There you go. Olga Nikolaevna, Queen Consort of Württemberg, asked German government to give him Baron title. So Plato Ustinov became, from Platon Ustinov, he became Plato von Ustinov, a baron. And he lived in Germany, he got German citizenship, and after some time his health started to deteriorate, and the doctors recommended him to go somewhere warmer, and he opted for the Holy Land. So he came, he married the daughter of Meltzer, that German, and built this hotel. Purchased the land and built the hotel. And it wasn't just the hotel. Why it's called Du Parc? Because the Du Parc Hotel had a big garden, and eventually Plato von Ustinov turned it into a botanical garden. So this was the very first botanical garden in the Holy Land next to this hotel. It also had a zoo with monkeys and some other animals. Some say there even was an elephant, but I think it's just a legend. I don't think this is true. Let's also film it from this side a little bit. Yeah, so Plato von Ustinov had two sons. One of their sons was called Peter, and the other one Jonah. And this is there is a lot of connection here with Jaffa, obviously, because Apostle Peter and also Prophet Jonah, we know stories related to them, and I will be telling them in a couple of weeks from now when I take you to Jaffa on a live walking tour, I promise. Well, maybe that's not really the best angle, so I'll probably move a little bit to the side so you could see more of the building. It's not that remarkable and definitely needs some tender love and care, right? But I still like the combination of the white shutter, of the white walls and the blue shutters. Looks very, well, I would say as it should be in such a hot climate, I believe, somewhere by the sea. Looks very Mediterranean to me. But Plato von Ustinov eventually left the Holy Land. Things were going well. Things were going so well that when Kaiser William II came to the Holy Land, he stayed in the German colony, and he did not stay in Jerusalem Hotel. In Jerusalem Hotel, his entourage stayed. He stayed here because this hotel belonged to a German baron. So things were doing very well, very well. However, he was homesick. He wanted to go to Russia. So Plato von Ustinov decided to go to Russia, and we lost track of him. We don't know what happened to Plato von Ustinov since then, but we know what happened to his son. So one of his sons, Jonah, he worked in Great Britain, and most likely he was a spy. He worked for MI5. And he married a descendant from Russia, Nadia Benois, a daughter she was a representative of the Benois family, one of the very old dynasties, artsy dynasties of the Russian Empire from St. Petersburg, right? Originally French, obviously. So Nadia Benois, and they had a child. I'm not sure if I would say his name is familiar to you, but, well, to some of you definitely. Peter Ustinov, the British actor, was their son. So through Russia, Germany, the Holy Land, and then Great Britain, we can trace the history of this place. Right now, it's also a pilgrimage center, Christian Messianic Center. And I was inside and I talked to people there. They have a small museum, and I will be able to later on tell you about this on my pre-recorded tour, because there's nothing I cannot really fit it all into 1 hour. Honestly, that's just absolutely impossible. So this is the room and the tiny museum they have. But Plato von Ustinov, back into the times when he lived here, he didn't live in the hotel. He had his house, and I will show you his house. It's just actually to that side. I think here you can figure out that this is just the two streets that cross. So it's a cross-shaped street. That's the outline that was developed by Americans. By the way, the Friendship House has this carriage. That's not Roller Floyd. Roller Floyd had a long beard, but you got the idea. You got the idea. And wow, look at all these bougainvilleas. By the way, it looks like a gigantic, well, not a gigantic, like a big garden. And actually, it was not a garden, but it was a tennis court. Let me show you. That used to be a tennis court. The times of the German colony. I don't know what was here during the times of the Americans. Maybe a garden. The world is very small, Patakot. You're very right. You're very right. Let me find, maybe I will try to find another photo. Not sure if it's going to work, but I will try. Give me a minute, please. Yeah, so the photo I wanted to show to you is the Germans are playing tennis here in the American colony. There you go. Indeed, there are so many connections that I just keep coming across on my research for my virtual tours or for my in-person tours. Honestly, it's just never ending. And the more you dig, the more you find out. And sometimes I squeak in excitement. Honestly, I squeak in excitement. So this used to be the house of Peter von Ustinov. I believe he just perished in the revolution because those were already the times, well, the pre-revolutionary times, and knowing that he was, well, an aristocrat, I guess we can pretty much guess what happened to him. We don't know, so maybe some information kind of surfaces with time. I do hope so. I also trained not to show people too much. Well, and the interesting thing is kind of also a way for me to promote my upcoming tour in 45 minutes from now is this detail over here. I like it that these old neighborhoods, though very different in nature, they still have some common things, and such as these Menschelachs, kind of a shutter stoppers, maybe, I'm not sure. All the locks for the shutters that would keep them open. I'll talk about this on my upcoming tour. You can't see too much in detail now, just a little bit. So I will tell you on the upcoming tour, which is to happen in 45 minutes from now. So as I said, this area with such a heritage, unfortunately, so after, well, when Germans allied with the Ottomans allied with Germans when the First World War happened, and after the First World War, after the defeat of Germany and the Ottomans, the British came here, and the Mandate period started. Well, Germans went through. Well, they were given a really hard time. They were temporarily moved away from their neighborhoods. Some never returned, such as the Germans who lived in this area never returned. Some would. But after the Second World War, all German communities and colonies would be permanently moved to Australia. That's why now there is a big German community from the Holy Land in Australia. I believe it's just that because of the wind, the flag is upside down. I'm not sure, but what I know is that in this house lives an American family. They're very American, and I'm pretty sure there's definitely nobody really means to hurt anybody's feelings or commit a crime against whatever. So I know this for sure. So. And what happened here? What was going on here in the German colony? Well, the British came, and the British liked this area too. Surprise, surprise. And let's say this building was used for a school. There was a school for girls on the upper floor. There was also a post office and several other important institutions built, established by the British. So it was sort of the British, one of the British headquarters. Maybe I can show you a couple more photographs, but I need a second for it, if I can find it. Well, for example, yeah, okay, why not? This is the photo. Sorry, this is the photo of one of the school. Well, it says the commercial school. It was just one of the classes. There are a lot of, I like the dress that the girl is wearing, so that's why I took the photo of the photo. So the school used to be here. I know that the school was for girls from Arab, Jewish, Christian families. It was a secular school. And I know that things were doing really, really well there. And after the establishment of State of Israel, in the 70s and 80s, this area, as I said, was largely neglected, and it just looked like slums, forsaken and abandoned. And then gazillions of monies were poured into it, and now it's one of the most expensive neighborhood ever in a very expensive city, Tel Aviv. So this is it. As I said, there will be another tour on this German colony, I promise. Stars always on the left, just a personal bug of mine. Okay, again, you know better, I don't know this. But again, as I said, nobody wanted to hurt anybody's feelings, I know that for sure. So I guess it's, let's just pass it. Well, there was a beautiful dress. There were a lot of photographs that I took of that area, of that school, a lot of photos that I took in the museums, and I will be able to put it all together into one tour, probably when I'm already back to Georgia. I'm not sure yet, because there's really a lot that I'm working on at the moment. So I also need to do some tours in Jerusalem, and live tours is what I'm really aiming at. It's not always possible due to the different things that's happening, but I'll do more for sure. Oh, it's so lovely here. I'm really enjoying this wind. And it smells like the sea, because the sea is very close. Yes, Cindy, again, please forgive us. It's just, I'm pretty sure, it's definitely nobody meant to hurt anybody's feelings here. I'm returning in less than a month. So I'm leaving on the 25th of September. Yes, but there's still some time to film, and I'm filming like almost every day, apart from all the other things that I'm doing. So in 45 minutes from now, we are going to meet in another neighborhood, not far from here, called Neve Tzedek. Hopefully next weekend I take you, I think I want a selfie next to the Driscoll Hotel. So in 45 minutes from now, I'll meet you in Neve Tzedek to talk about another neighborhood, this time not a Christian but a Jewish neighborhood. And then there are going to be 2 more tours after a couple of hours break, because I need time to get home to my cat that I'm taking care of, or who's taking care of me. I'm not really sure yet. So we'll see. And yeah, so I think that's I think it's a nice selfie opportunity. If you could take a postcard, that would be fantastic. And so the tours I will be doing tonight, I'm talking about the Russian immigrants after the revolution. Cats are wonderful caretakers, indeed. So I'm taking you on a tour of the Russian immigrants from the revolution, right? I'm taking you to China to talk about Russian, Georgian, and Jewish communities in Harvard, in China. And also I'm wrapping up my short series of tours on, what is that? Not sure. About the Constantine Palace, about the Romanov residence. And tomorrow I'm doing 4 more tours. One of them, for those of you who like Art Nouveau, I'm taking you to an Art Nouveau museum in St. Petersburg, which Misha filled for us during his visit. I'll stay here because from here you can see another house built by the American settlers in early on 1866. Then Misha is going to be talking a lot about the Soviet music of the Perestroika period. It's going to be a lot of fun, and also a lot of, I would say, quite... Yeah, thanks. So what was talking about? I was talking about the Perestroika period show business. We're going to listen to a lot of music, and Misha, I think, is going to sing for us a little bit. I think so, because, he's gonna definitely going to use this opportunity, so he's gonna be singing for sure, and I would love that. Then I'm taking it to the Christian Quarter in Jerusalem, and there's something else. There's some other tour that I forgot. How could I? What is the other tour? I can't remember now. This is ridiculous. Okay, but I will. I promise. By the next tour, I will remember. So I'm doing 8 tours this weekend, 3 more tonight, and 4 tomorrow. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. There is a pinned comment on the chat. If you click the comment, you will see the link to buy me a coffee, to send me a PayPal donation, and on my website, anuyagai.com, you will definitely be able to find all the tours scheduled, and and tomorrow I'm doing this tour of St. Isaac's Cathedral for all virtual tours. I understand now why I'm so confused, because I normally do tours for both virtual tours on Saturday, but this one time they asked me to do it on Sunday, so that's why there's a little bit of a change, and it's always confusing. It's even confused me, you see, but that's okay, we can manage. It's the same time that I usually run the tour, but just another day, not tonight but tomorrow. That's it. Yeah, well, definitely there's going to be Soviet absurdity. It's going to be a post-Soviet period of sobriety in a way, people coming back to senses, or people still kind of drunk with a feeling of freedom and glasnost. So we'll see how it was reflected in the show business and the music, and there's a lot. Yeah, definitely. You asked for this tour, so, and yes, Sharon, there's going to be a song about the accountant. Yeah, there was a song about the accountant. Yeah. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I really enjoyed taking you to the American German colony. As I said, there's going to be a continuation. I'm working on it. And I will see you in Neve Tzedek very soon. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support, for your interest in my tours, for your tips, and just for having me in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you so much, and bye-bye. And the views of American German colony and the Auerbach Street. Bye-bye. See you soon.